Do you ever hit just exactly the wrong button at the wrong moment? Hi, everybody. It's me, the ADHD Preacher, here with a special edition of the ADHD Preacher. Specifically, I'm here today to do a close reading of Executive Order Establishing the President's Make America Healthy Again Commission. I read some of this out loud to my wife the other day, and I decided very quickly that I needed to read it again more carefully. For any of you who have seen me do this before, when I do scripture readings, what I do is I do one straight, clean read-through. I just read the text from beginning to end, and I let it sit for a minute, and then I read it again with some interpretation. And I don't know yet how I'm going to feel about this format. If I like it, I might do it some more. But I am the ADHD Preacher, and I feel equipped to speak about a number of things: linguistics, dendrology, forestry. But really, there are two topics that I feel equipped to speak to you all about, and one of them is preaching, and the other one is ADHD. So I'm going to do that. I am coming at this text with background, my bona fides. I was in leadership for the Yahoo Neurodiversity Employee Resource Group for 6 years. I specifically was the global co-lead of Yahoo Neurodiversity for 2 years, which overlapped with 2 years that I was also one of the global co-leads for Verizon Advance Employee Resource Group, advocating for people with disabilities, accessibility needs, caregivers, and of course those with neurodivergences. So I have deep experience in supporting a community of people with mental health and neurodivergence needs and our disability community, and I have things to say about this executive order. So let's just go ahead and get started, shall we? Establishing the President's Make America Healthy Again Commission, Executive Order, February 13th, 2025. By the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1. Purpose. American life expectancy significantly lags behind other developed countries, with pre-COVID-19 U.S. life expectancy averaging 78.8 years and comparable countries averaging 82.6 years. This equates to 1.25 billion fewer life years for the United States population. 6 in 10 Americans have at least one chronic disease, and 4 in 10 have 2 or more chronic diseases. An estimated 1 in 5 U.S. adults lives with a mental illness. These realities become even more painful when contrasted with nations around the globe. Across 204 countries and territories, the United States had the highest age-standardized incidence rate of cancer in 2021, nearly double the next highest rate. Further, from 1990 to 2021, the U.S. experienced an 88% increase in cancer, the largest percentage increase of any country evaluated. In 2021, asthma was more than twice as common in the United States than most of Europe, Asia, or Africa. Autism spectrum disorders had the highest prevalence in high-income countries, including the United States in 2021. Similarly, autoimmune diseases such as inflammatory bowel disease, psoriasis, and multiple sclerosis are more commonly diagnosed in high-income areas such as Europe and North America. Overall, the global comparison data demonstrates that the health of Americans is on an alarming trajectory that requires immediate action. This concern applies urgently to America's children. In 2022, an estimated 30 million children, 40.7%, had at least one health condition such as allergies, asthma, or an autoimmune disease. Autism spectrum disorder now affects 1 in 36 children in the United States, a staggering increase from rates of 1 to 4 out of 10,000 children identified with the condition during the 1980s. 18% of late adolescents and young adults have fatty liver disease, close to 30% of adolescents are pre-diabetic, and more than 40% of adolescents are overweight or obese. These health burdens have continued to increase alongside the increased prescription of medication. For example, in the case of attention deficit disorder / attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, over 3.4 million children are now on medication for the disorder, up from 3.2 million children in 2019-2020, and the number of children being diagnosed with the condition continues to rise. This poses a dire threat to the American people and our way of life. 77% of young adults do not qualify for the military based in large percent. 77% of young adults do not qualify for the military based in large part on their health scores. 90% of the nation's $4.5 trillion in annual healthcare expenditures is for people with chronic and mental health conditions. In short, Americans of all ages are becoming sicker, beset by illnesses that our medical system is not addressing effectively. These trends harm us, our economy, and our security. To fully address the growing health crisis in America, we must redirect our national focus in the public and private sectors toward understanding and drastically lowering chronic disease rates and ending childhood chronic disease. This includes fresh thinking on nutrition, physical activity, healthy lifestyles, over-reliance on medication and treatments, the effects of new technological habits, environmental impacts, and food and drug quality and safety. We must restore the integrity of the scientific process by protecting expert recommendations from inappropriate influence and increasing transparency regarding existing data. We must ensure our healthcare system promotes health rather than just managing disease. Section 2. Policy. It shall be the policy of the federal government to aggressively combat the critical health challenges facing our citizens, including the rising rates of mental health disorders, obesity, diabetes, and other chronic diseases. To do so, executive departments and agencies, agencies, that address health or healthcare must focus on reversing chronic disease. Under this policy, all federally funded health research should empower Americans through transparency and open source data and should avoid or eliminate conflicts of interest that skew outcomes and perpetuate distrust. B. The National Institutes of Health and other health-related research funded by the federal government should prioritize gold standard research on the root causes of why Americans are getting sick. C. Agencies shall work with farmers to ensure that United States food is the healthiest, most abundant, and most affordable in the world. And D. Agencies shall ensure the availability of expanded treatment options and the flexibility for health insurance coverage to provide benefits that support beneficial lifestyle changes and disease prevention. Section 3. Establishment and composition of the President's Make America Healthy Again Commission. There is hereby established the President's Make America Healthy Again Commission, Commission, chaired by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Chair, with the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy serving as Executive Director, Executive Director. Paragraph B. In addition to the Chair and the Executive Director, the Commission shall include the following officials or their designees. Numeral 1, Roman numeral 1, the Secretary of Agriculture. Roman numeral 2, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Roman numeral 3, the Secretary of Education. Roman numeral 4, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Roman numeral 5, the Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Roman numeral 6, the Director of the Office of Management and Budget. Roman numeral 7, the Assistant to the President and Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Roman numeral 8, the Director of the National Economic Council. Roman numeral 9, the Chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. Roman numeral 10, the Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy. Roman numeral 11, the Commissioner of Food and Drugs. Roman numeral 12, the Director for the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. Roman numeral 13, the Director of the National Institutes of Health. And Roman numeral 14, any other members of my administration invited to participate at the discretion of the Chair and the Executive Director. Section 4. Fighting Childhood Chronic Disease. The initial mission of the Commission shall be to advise and assist the President on how best to exercise his authority to address the childhood chronic disease crisis. Therefore, the Commission shall A. Paragraph A. Study the scope of the childhood chronic disease crisis and any potential contributing causes, including the American diet, absorption of toxic material, medical treatments, lifestyle, environmental factors, government policies, food production techniques, electromagnetic radiation, and corporate influence or cronyism. Paragraph B. Advise and assist the President on informing the American people regarding the childhood chronic disease crisis using transparent and clear facts. And paragraph C. Provide to the President government-wide recommendations on policy and strategy related to addressing the identified contributing causes of and ending the childhood chronic disease crisis. Section 5. Initial assessment and strategy from the Make America Healthy Again Commission. Paragraph A. Make Our Children Healthy Again assessment. Within 100 days of the date of this order, the Commission shall submit to the President, through the Chair and the Executive Director, the Make Our Children Healthy Again assessment, which shall, Roman numeral 1, identify and describe childhood chronic disease in America compared to other countries. Roman numeral 2, assess the threat that potential overutilization of medication, certain food ingredients, certain chemicals, and certain other exposures pose to children with respect to chronic inflammation or other established mechanisms of disease, using rigorous and transparent data, including international comparisons. Roman numeral 3, assess the prevalence of and threat posed by the prescription of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, stimulants, and weight loss drugs. Roman numeral 4, identify and report on best practices for preventing childhood health issues, including through proper nutrition and the promotion of healthy lifestyles. Roman numeral 5, evaluate the effectiveness of existing educational programs with regard to nutrition, physical activity, and mental health for children. Roman numeral 6, identify and evaluate existing federal programs and funding intended to prevent and treat childhood health issues for their scope and effectiveness. Roman numeral 7, ensure transparency of all current data and unpublished analyses related to the childhood chronic disease crisis, consistent with applicable law. Roman numeral 8, evaluate the effectiveness of current federal government childhood health data and metrics, including those from the Federal Interagency Forum on Child and Family Statistics and the National Survey of Children's Health. Roman numeral 9, restore the integrity of science, including by eliminating undue industry influence, releasing findings and underlying data to the maximum extent permitted under applicable law, and increasing methodological rigor. And Roman numeral 10, establishing a framework for transparency and ethics review in industry-funded projects. Paragraph B, Make Our Children Healthy Again strategy. Within 180 days of the date of this order, the Commission shall submit to the President, through the Chair and the Executive Director, a Make Our Children Healthy Again strategy, strategy, based on the findings from the Make Our Children Healthy Again assessment described in subsection A of this section. The strategy shall address appropriately restructuring the federal government's response to the childhood chronic disease crisis, including by ending federal practices that exacerbate the health crisis or unsuccessfully attempt to address it, and by adding powerful new solutions that will end childhood chronic disease. Paragraph C. The Chair may hold public hearings, meetings, roundtables, and similar events as appropriate, and may receive expert input from leaders in public health and government accountability. Section 6. Additional reports. Paragraph A. Following the submission to the President of the strategy and any final strategy reports thereafter, the Chair and the Executive Director shall recommend to the President updates to the Commission's mission, including desired reports. Paragraph B. The Commission shall not reconvene following submission of the strategy until an updated mission is submitted to the President through the Executive Director. Section 7. General provisions. Paragraph A. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect. Subparagraph 1. The authority granted by law to an executive department or agency, or the head thereof. Subparagraph 2. The functions of the Director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. Paragraph B. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. Paragraph C. This order is not intended to, and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. The White House, February the 13th, 2025. If you're just tuning in, we are doing a close reading of the Establishing the President's Make America Healthy Again Commission, an executive order dated the 13th of February, 2025. We've just done round 1. Read the whole thing out loud with no interpretation. No comment, just read it. I've made a terrible tactical error. I have not included any stimulants in my beverage for this activity, and I kind of need them. As I said when I opened the stream, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're now going to read again this same executive order with a little bit of interpretation. Let's be honest, a lot of interpretation and a lot of commentary. So we're going to take it from the top. Thank you for joining us. Buckle up. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered, Mr. President, your power derives from the Constitution and the laws of our nation. Please remember. Section 1, Purpose. American life expectancy significantly lags behind other developed countries, with pre-COVID-19 U.S. life expectancy averaging 78.8 years and comparable countries averaging 82.6 years. I would like very much the citation for this number, please. And I want the citation for this number for two reasons. Number one, I want to know why you're pulling pre-COVID-19 numbers. And number two, when you say comparable countries, by any chance, would you happen to mean countries with socialized medicine? Is it possible that, for example, Canada's life expectancy, or that of the UK, or France, or Germany, or any of the other industrialized nations with which we are comparable, are in fact superior to our outcomes? This equates to 1.25 billion fewer life years for the United States population. That is the dumbest stat I've seen. 1.25 billion years of life gone up in smoke. 6 in 10 Americans have at least one chronic disease, and 4 in 10 have 2 or more chronic diseases. Buckle up, as I said, because I am going to be doing some checking. You know what? Let's use the census. Census Bureau quick facts. I want the actual census, population census. I want a chart. Images. Okay, let's take a look at this. Population reference, U.S. Census Bureau. Perfect. That's Utah, the United States. Sure, great. It looks to me there's a bit of a population bump in the late 20s, and then another weird bump in the mid 50s. But it looks to me, and I could be very wrong here, but it looks to me like about 60% of this chart is people between the ages of, say, 30 and 100, and that about 40% of this chart is people between the ages of about 45 and 100. This is a nothing burger of a statistic. Yes, 6 in 10 Americans have at least one chronic disease. No one's attempting to minimize the importance of this fact. But when you say a chronic disease, that includes things like osteoporosis, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia. Like, 4 in 10 have 2 or more chronic diseases. Many of them are young people. A lot of them are older because people get chronic diseases over time. The number of people who have chronic diseases increases. Tell me how that number has changed. Tell me how many Americans 30, 40, 50 years ago had how many chronic diseases. An estimated 1 in 5 U.S. adults lives with a mental illness. Yeah, that sounds about right. 20%. About 1 in 5 U.S. adults lives with a mental illness. And I wanted citations all over this. Show me your numbers. But sure, 1 in 5 adults lives with a mental illness. I realize that I have a sort of selection bias problem, but that sounds low. That sounds low to me. These realities become, I'm now back to reading, these realities become even more painful when contrasted with nations around the globe. Across 204 countries and territories, the United States had the highest age-standardized incidence rate of cancer in 2021, nearly double the next highest rate. This is interesting information. This is genuinely interesting information. Why? Why is our cancer rate so much higher than everybody else's? I think that's a legitimate question and very interesting. Further, from 1990 to 2021, the U.S. experienced an 88% increase in cancer, the largest percentage increase of any country evaluated. Again, very interesting. Why would that be? And now we're going to take a sharp right turn. In 2021, asthma was more than twice as common in the United States than most of Europe, Asia, or Africa. Yeah. It's almost as though we are, in fact, intaking chemicals, toxins, poisons, something that is affecting our health. I buy it. That seems completely plausible to me. I need to hasten to add, I'm giving this some mustard because there are parts of this that make me so furious I want to spit. But a lot of this is perfectly reasonable. And if it were any other administration, I promise you, there was some EO that came out of the Biden or the Obama administration that was like, you know, it'd be a really good idea is if we did stuff to make people healthier. Like, a lot of it's perfectly reasonable, and I am willing to approach it with I'm willing to approach a good chunk of it with patience and grace, except for the parts where the indication to me seems to be off in a completely different direction. In the same breath as cancer, asthma, and autoimmune diseases like inflammatory bowel disease, psoriasis, and multiple sclerosis, we're also going to talk about autism. Autism spectrum disorders had the highest prevalence in high-income countries, including the United States, in 2021. Wait, what? Autism spectrum disorders had the highest prevalence in high-income countries, including the United States, in 2021. God, I wish there were citations on this so badly. Similarly, so, my friends, look me in the eye. Do you see me on the camera? All four of you. And as many of you as are watching on VOD. Autism is genetic. It's genetic. It's genetic. And yeah, there's some environmental factors that can exacerbate it, that can make it harder for neurotypical people to deal with autistic people. But autism itself is genetic. It's just genetic. This is, and asthma has genetic components. Similarly, autoimmune diseases such as inflammatory bowel disease, psoriasis, and multiple sclerosis are more commonly diagnosed in high-income areas such as Europe and North America. Why do we keep including Europe in this? Sure, absolutely. They're building a case here. They're building a case for something. And some of it, I know what they're doing. But some of it is just say what you mean. Because I think what you mean is we are being poisoned by business and possibly the government. We're being poisoned. And Europe is also being poisoned. Europe and the United States, we're all being poisoned by something in our environment. And we got to figure out what. Okay, I buy it. Sure. This has nothing to do with the price of beans. This is not, don't include that. It's not relevant. Overall, the global comparison data demonstrates that the health of Americans is on an alarming trajectory that requires immediate action. Okay. You didn't really prove a trajectory thing. But sure. This concern applies urgently to America's children. In 2022, an estimated 30 million children, 40.7%. Oh, hi, Bezzy. Sorry, I got to chat a friend. Nice to see you, friend. This concern applies urgently to America's children. In 2022, an estimated 30 million children, 40.7%, had at least one health condition such as allergies, asthma, or an autoimmune disease. That is, now, that's not a chronic disease, but a health condition such as allergies, asthma, or an autoimmune disease. Please give me your citations. Because this could include, like, eczema or acne. Like, this could include a wild number of things. Okay, I had to read this. I had to be very careful reading this because autism spectrum disorder now affects 1 in 36 children in the United States, a staggering increase from rates of 1 to 4 out of 10,000 children identified with the condition during the 1980s. Y'all realize that, like, we kind of only figured out that autism was a thing in maybe the 40s, the 50s in Germany? And it took a while for that information to cross the pond. And once it did cross the pond, there was a whole other thing, Mr. President, Secretary Kennedy. Up until DSM-5, there were two distinct disorders: autism and Asperger's. Is it possible that the increase in diagnosis for autism is because we recategorized Asperger's to be included under autism? Could this have anything to do with it? Could it be, is it possible that increased awareness of the symptoms associated with autism has led to an increase in diagnosis? Could awareness itself be driving this staggering, may I say, miraculous increase? Could it be? I'm going to get my timeline together. I'm going to post it. But, like, the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is the gold standard for diagnosis for healthcare in the United States, for especially behavioral health. The DSM-5 was released, let's see here. We have criteria and text updates in 2024, but when did the DSM-5 come out? Oh, Google. When did the DSM... Hey. Since May of 2013, and this was when the change was that up until May of 2013, like in April of 2013, there were two possible diagnoses, and a clinician would use a number of diagnostic criteria to determine whether this was Asperger's or autism. And so you sort of split them out. But now with the DSM-5, we squish them all together. "18% of late adolescents and young adults have fatty liver disease." I don't know beans about fatty liver disease. I'm not going to look it up right now, but I'm interested. I think that fatty liver disease might be related to obesity and diabetes and other similar things. I don't think it's... My first thought was like, is this alcohol related? Because that would be shocking. 18% of late adolescents and young adults have fatty liver disease. Close to 30% of adolescents are pre-diabetic. And more than 40% of adolescents are overweight or obese. Now, I promise you, because this is the language that is being used, this is the BMI. The BMI is stupid. And I'm not a medical professional, but the BMI is dumb. And there's better things we can and should be using. Other people are using better things for this. Bodies are weird. Yeah, probably there are people who are carrying more body weight than would be ideal for them. And there are probably things we can and should do about that. Yep. 100%. Let's go. This is the real, this is paragraph. There are two paragraphs in which you're going to see the full rage emerge. These health burdens have continued to increase alongside the increased prescription of medication. For example, in the case of attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, over 3.4 million children are now on medication for the disorder, up from 3.2 million children in 2019 to 2020. Gee, has anything changed over the last 5 years? Have there been any substantial changes that might cause an additional 200,000 children to possibly need additional support for their mental health and their ability to focus in complex environments? Is it possible? And the number of children being diagnosed with the condition continues to rise. My friends, I have had ADHD as long as I can remember. I have a note from a first grade teacher saying if Matthew would focus and stop humming to himself, he would do better on his homework. I have a psych assessment from when I went to be ordained. And I said to the psychiatrist out loud in as many words, I am struggling with focus. And I have the assessment. And the psychiatrist says, Matthew mentioned having issues with focus, but I didn't notice any during our time together. Pro tip. Go read Hallowell. Any of them. ADHD 2.0 is great. Being in a novel environment, being asked to do complex tasks, treats ADHD really effectively. Of course, I didn't have any focus issues. I was doing a high pressure thing. ADHD is not just genetic. It is also environmental. There are factors that can lead to the symptoms of the disorder becoming overwhelming. You really only have the disorder if it's interfering with your life, and a lot of people manage to treat it without using medication. And if I lived in a different society and a different world, I could do that too. I skeeted this the other day. For those of you who are not on Blue Sky, skeeting is what we're calling it on Blue Sky instead of tweeting. The whole thing. I skeeted the other day. I said, in response to something very much like this, Mr. Secretary, if you give me a job working as a forester at the same wage that I was making at a Silicon Valley tech company, I will quit my ADHD meds tomorrow. I'll wait. Yes, there are lifestyle things that you can do that make medication not necessary. And there are lifestyle things that you can do with kids that make medication less necessary. It's a great idea. Let's do it. We're real. We're real people and we're really here. We have ADHD. My son almost certainly has ADHD. The chance that he got it, he absolutely got it from me. The chance that he got it also from my wife is non-zero. My kid is going to have ADHD. There's good money on that. And I am conscious of it every day. And I'm super thoughtful about the question of, is he going to go on medication? When's he going to go on medication? What are we going to do with his lifestyle to help him manage his ADHD? I think about it all the time. Taking away meds is an option. This, and I'm back to the reading. This, I'm going to assume that this is all this. Everything that has gone before. We're coming in for a landing. This poses a dire threat because it could just be the ADHD. I don't know. This poses a dire threat to the American people and our way of life. 77% of young adults do not qualify for the military based in large part on their health scores. Citation needed, please. Please tell me more. That's sure. Okay. Only 23% of our young people are eligible for the military? That's... okay, sure. All right. That seems like a real problem for you. 90% of the nation's $4.5 trillion in annual healthcare expenditures is for people with chronic and mental health conditions. Again, please tell me what percentage of our $4.5 trillion in annual healthcare expenditure is spent on people over the age of 60. How much is it? Is it 70%? 80%? Heaven forfend, is it 90%? Most of the money that we spend in healthcare is spent as people are dying, when they have chronic and mental health conditions, because they're dying. In short, Americans of all ages are becoming sicker, beset by illnesses that our medical system is not addressing effectively. These trends harm us, our economy, and our security. Sure. Yeah, boy, do I wish our medical system was addressing effectively our chronic and mental health conditions. Boy, would that be nice. To fully address the growing health crisis in America, we must redirect our national focus in the public and private sectors toward understanding and drastically lowering chronic disease rates and ending childhood chronic disease. Please make that happen. Please. Mr. President, Secretary Kennedy, please drastically lower chronic disease rates and end childhood chronic disease. Please. Don't mistake neurodivergences for chronic illnesses in the process. And don't This includes fresh thinking on nutrition, physical activity, healthy lifestyles, over-reliance on medication and treatments, the effects of new technological habits, environmental impacts, and food and drug quality and safety. On the face of it, this all sounds great. Like, there's some stuff in here that yes, please do that. Fresh thinking on nutrition, awesome. Fresh thinking on physical activity, yes, please. Help us, spend some money figuring out how to help people get more physical activity. Awesome. I don't want to know what you mean by healthy lifestyles, but fine. No. Sure, over-reliance. Okay. Over-reliance. I buy that. Who's going to decide what over-reliance looks like, Mr. Secretary? Who's going to decide what over-reliance looks like, Mr. President? Is it going to be my physician? Or is it going to be you? I trust one of those people. The effects of new technological habits. Oh my God. Isn't this the president who went to bat for TikTok? Isn't this President Donald Trump who fought to ensure that Americans still had access to TikTok? Fresh thinking on the effects of new technological habits. That is a breathtaking moment of hypocrisy. That's spectacular. Environmental impacts and food and drug quality and safety. Man, it would be really cool if we had some organ, some part of our government that was devoted to environmental impacts and food and drug safety and quality. It would be so cool if we had some, government bureau or office or administration that would help protect our environment and would be focused on food and drug quality and safety. And if those organizations were staffed with passionate public servants, civil servants who have trained for those positions. Gosh, that would be great. We must restore the integrity of the scientific process by protecting expert recommendations from inappropriate influence and increasing transparency regarding existing data. Bro. So first of all, sure. Inappropriate influence from who? Because I'm absolutely positive that PepsiCo has feels about the recommendations that you're looking at and the experts that are making them. Increasing transparency regarding existing data. Again, if only we had some sort of database or some sort of website that had collections of data and research from reputable institutions that had been peer reviewed and was sponsored by the government to manage this information. We must ensure our healthcare system promotes health rather than just managing disease. Preaching to the choir, my brother. Bezzy, do we have... Oh, food and drug availability. That's... Actually, stay tuned, because we'll get there. It is going to come up. Section 2, policy. It shall be the policy of the federal government to aggressively combat the critical health challenges facing our citizens, including the rising rates of mental health disorders, obesity, diabetes, and other chronic diseases. To do so, executive departments and agencies. Agency, that was the word that I needed. I need some sort of government agency. Executive departments and agencies that address health or healthcare must focus on reversing chronic disease under this policy. Sorry, I'm going to pause here for a moment. ADHD is not a chronic disease. Autism spectrum disorder is not a chronic disease. These are neurodivergencies. These are where the brains go. And there are people who have comorbidities, other conditions that are chronic illnesses, but it's by themselves, they're not. So, like, don't include those. But, yeah. Mental health disorders, obesity, diabetes, yeah. Great idea to do stuff for anxiety and depression. Great idea to do stuff for obesity and diabetes. Awesome. Let's do it. Reversing chronic disease comes up for me because I know a number of people, some of them might even be on the stream. Right? Yeah. What's up, DGen? We're going to aggressively combat critical health challenges. We're going to beat obesity and diabetes into the ground with a shovel. DGen knows a friend. DGen and I have a friend who has chronic fatigue syndrome. And chronic fatigue syndrome, for many people, seems to have significant overlap with long COVID. That these are two conditions that seem like it's possible they are all from the same root, that they are all grounded in a mistuned or overtuned or undertuned or some problem with an immune response to a viral infection. And the number of people with chronic fatigue syndrome, what are those? It was the word I'm looking for. Symptoms because of long COVID jumped by like 3x, 4x, kind of overnight. Are you guys going to put money into researching treatments for chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia? Are you guys going to put money and effort and time into researching some of these chronic illnesses that are devastating and into new and innovative ways to treat them? Because you haven't mentioned them. Like, we kind of, it's not one-to-one, but we kind of know what to do about diabetes, obesity. Like, we kind of know what to do. We kind of have a playbook for these. What are we doing about the diseases for which there is no treatment, no cure? Where are you? DGen, I'm sitting here thinking, DGen Cat, go follow, if you're at all into strategy games, and I'm going to get this wrong, DGen, but I think 4X strategy, specifically Victoria 3. Go follow DGen Cat's channel on YouTube. See the good content there. DGen, you must have studied Sun Tzu in your time playing strategy games. You must know that only an idiot fights a war on two fronts, and only a madman on three. That may not actually be Sun Tzu. I'm typing to you because it's nice to see you. Also, it doesn't have wave as an emoji. Fine. All right. Here we go. All federally funded health research should empower Americans through transparency and open source data and should avoid or eliminate conflicts of interest that skew outcomes and perpetuate distrust. I ADHD'd that a little bit because also I can hear my baby downstairs. Let me try that again. All federally funded health research should empower Americans through transparency and open source data and should avoid or eliminate conflicts of interest that skew outcomes and perpetuate distrust. Yes, please. Go for it. Is the data not open source? Guys, is there secret health research being done that I don't know about? Are we doing secret health research that I'm not aware of? I mean, obviously I wouldn't be aware of it. It's a secret. But like, what's this? Like, this feels to me like Mr. Musk was standing over the draft of the executive order and said, put open source in there. Put open source data right there. Right there. The NIH, all the papers on the NIH are just out there. Like, you can just go to the website, or you used to be able to just go to the website and see them. Like, anything that was funded by the NIH, you could just see the whole paper. Unless I'm wrong. I could have been wrong. But I used to go to those articles all the time. I hope they're still there. And yeah, please eliminate conflicts of interest. Please do not, for example, permit any stray billionaires that you happen to have who have contracts with NASA. Please do not permit those billionaires to go into NASA and fire a bunch of people. Please don't do that. The National Institutes of Health and other health-related research funded by the federal government should prioritize gold standard research on the root causes of why Americans are getting sick. I don't think we've been looking into that. I mean, like, this is one of those, sure, okay, yeah. This one feels like Secretary Kennedy, and this feels like Secretary Kennedy saying, you know, what we really need to figure out is what fluoride is doing to Americans. Which, like, okay, do research on that. That's fine. Like, if the trade-off is, in fact, that we need to, like, deal with other outcomes from fluoride, but people are spending thousands of dollars less per year on dental care for their children, okay, take the fluoride out of the drinking water. I'm going to give my kid fluoride toothpaste and fluoride mouthwash and fluoride everything that I can find to help him not have cavities. Okay, done. Solved. But that's me. I'm not everybody. That's the point. Bezzy, this is a present for you. Agencies shall work with farmers to ensure that United States food is the healthiest, most abundant, and most affordable in the world. Please make that happen. Again, there's a couple points in this thing where I'm like, I'm rooting for you. Please make vegetables cheaper. Please make vegetables cheaper. Please make fruit cheaper. Figure out how to make fruit and vegetables cheaper and more accessible, easier to get to. Please. I beg you. Make that happen. Oh, wait. Our fruit and veggies are all, like, you have no idea how much I spend on strawberries right now. Like, I bought strawberries. I bought 3 quarts of strawberries for my baby on a buy 2 get 1. They were gone in 2 days. You have no idea how much money I'm spending on strawberries right now. Bananas, God help us. And the amount is like $10. It's like $10 a week that I'm spending on fruit and veg for my kid. That's unbelievable. That's so good. In many ways, the problem is not like the food that we have is pretty healthy, and it's pretty abundant, and it's pretty affordable. It's just that there's other crap that's easier. Like, yeah, I want to feed my baby strawberries all the time, but if we're out on the road, strawberries in the car are a mess, but a food pouch isn't too bad. Like, this is not rocket science. This is like, yeah. But sure, yes. If you can make good food, healthy food, mostly plants, cheaper, do it. And more abundant, and yeah, it's great. Also, isn't this the president who, like, eats a lot of Burger King or McDonald's? I forget. There's a whole thing about the president eats a ton of fast food, right? That's a thing, right? Agencies shall ensure the availability of expanded treatment options and the flexibility for health insurance coverage to provide benefits that support beneficial lifestyle changes and disease prevention. Again, more power to you. Yeah, well, okay, so DGen points out, we've been in this cost of living crisis, but you never seem to hear about how well farmers are doing, which you'd think they would be with food prices like they've been seeing, because they're all spending more money on their food and their fuel and their, right? Like, there's a lot going on there. And also, an absolutely ridiculous amount of our food comes from South America, Mexico. Like, check your labels on your fruit. Like, your healthy options, your fruit, your veg, mostly are not being grown in the U.S. because it is not cost effective to hire people to do stuff to harvest crops in the U.S. So unless you can mechanically harvest the crop, this is why there's this brief period. I love this, actually. There's this brief period in the spring where asparagus is really cheap. And then a couple weeks later, it's strawberries. Strawberries are just all over the place and they're super cheap. And the reason for this is that asparagus is hard to harvest. It's backbreaking work. Like, you have to go down there with a knife and cut the asparagus, and you can't mechanize it. And then strawberries, which are more profitable and more in demand and a heck of a lot, yeah, right? What you get is you get migrant workers who start with the asparagus season, and the minute the strawberries are ripe, they drop asparagus and they go to work on the strawberries because they're more profitable. And it's like, healthy food is expensive. Good food is expensive. It's hard. My new health insurance has a gym benefit. My old one also used to have a gym benefit. My favorite benefit that I ever had from any health insurance was one where literally, if I hit certain numbers, if I hit certain, like, X number of steps per day and other things in every month, they gave me cash. I got a cash bonus to do stuff. And I used it to buy smartwatches so it would track my steps better. And it was awesome. It's not that, like, every health insurance I've ever had has had a premium bonus. Your premium is less expensive if you don't smoke. This is not hard. You can just pay people to make healthy choices. And if they make those healthy choices as an insurer, you've saved a bundle. Yeah. Yes. This would be my... So I'm not an economist. I'm not a medical professional. But yeah, I think this is it, is all the farmers' costs are higher. Yeah, and the resources, the energy costs are, like, the transportation costs are up. But the other one is, when we say farmers, depending on what crops or what content we're talking about, everybody has the image of farmer, and the idea is, here's a guy on a farm in Iowa and his family, and his, he goes out at 5 a.m. to milk the cows, and then he he's got to make sure the field gets plowed for the corn and all of this, right? That's not how farming, like, there are people who are doing that. That's not how farming works. That's not how we produce as much content as we do. We produce content at a factory level. So when we say farmers, what we mean is farm conglomerates, big farms, big ag, that go out there, and there's nobody getting up at 5 a.m. Like, there are a bunch of people getting up at 5 a.m. to milk the cows, but that's all they're doing. They're just doing cows because specialization works. Benches, like, this is not hard. But those big agglomerates, your ConAgra and similar businesses, your big farm outfits, are also having a lot of trouble with transportation. They're also having a lot of trouble with paying people to do the actual work that you still need humans to do. Picking strawberries and cutting asparagus and all these things. And that will be much, much, much worse if for some reason we were to ship a lot of our migrant workers and immigrants away. Is suddenly, you could not pay me $40 an hour to go out and cut asparagus. I'm not going to do it. You definitely can't pay me $20 an hour. Agribusinesses. Yeah, they make me aggro too. So yeah, no, please. Flexibility for, but this is my thing about that health insurance benefit that I was talking about, that was just a cash transfer. You just get money for doing this. They cut it, like, we changed insurers within a year because I don't think it's because the premium's too high. I think it's because they lost money on it. I think that insurance is the wildest, health insurance especially, is the wildest thing, because stuff that makes an awful lot of sense on paper doesn't work in practice. And people are weird about fraud. All right. I am going to keep going. Establishment and composition of the President's Make America Healthy Again Commission. There's one more really good bit, but I want to catch on one thing here. Paragraph A, there is hereby established the President's Make America Healthy Again Commission, brackets commission, chaired by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, brackets chair, that would be Secretary Kennedy, and assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, serving as executive director. Who is the assistant to the President for Domestic Policy? It's headed by the Assistant for the President of Domestic Policy. Who is it? Vince Haley is the director of the agency. Domestic Policy Council. That's President Obama's White House. That's the National Archives. So Vince Haley. Okay. Served as the director. Who is Vince Haley? Some guy. Vince Haley, American speechwriter and political advisor, director of the Domestic Policy Council, born at some point in Virginia, left a lot of work in politics. He was an aide to Speaker Gingrich, co-authored a bunch of books, defeated in a Virginia Senate race, worked for the 2016 campaign as a speechwriter, and worked on the 2024 campaign. Okay. All right. Some guy. In addition to the chair and executive director, the commission shall include the following officials or their designees. Now, everybody please pay attention. What's missing from this list? Because it's hilarious. Secretary of Agriculture, that's present for you, Bessie. Secretary of HUD, Housing and Urban Development. Secretary of Education. Secretary of the VA. The Administrator of the EPA. Director of the OMB. The Assistant to the President and Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Who is that? The Director of the National Economic Council, the Chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, the Commissioner of Food and Drugs, who I'm assuming is the Commissioner of the FDA, the Director of the CDC, the Director of the NIH, and other members of my administration invited to participate, I love my administration, invited to participate at the discretion of the Chair and the Executive Director. My friends. Who's missing from this list? It's funny. Agriculture, HUD, Education. HHS is the chair. The VA, EPA, OMB. This person, NEC, Council of Economic Advisors, Office of Science and Tech Policy, Food and Drugs, CDC and Prevention, NIH. You guys, where's the Surgeon General? Why isn't the Surgeon General in this commission? Where's the Surgeon General? Also, Commerce. Like, you've got the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors and the director of the National Economic Council. Why not have the Commerce Secretary? But where's the Surgeon General? We have a Surgeon General. We have a doctor who should probably be on this commission. And might be. All right. I got sick when I was doing this reading of saying the phrase chronic disease crisis. Because I was like, you did not establish to my satisfaction as a non-medical professional interested reader that there is a childhood chronic disease crisis. You said that there are childhood chronic diseases. I buy it. Talk to me about the crisis. The initial mission of the commission shall be to advise and assist the president on how to best exercise his authority to address the childhood chronic disease crisis. I wanted this to be in capitals. Like, capitalize every word of the childhood chronic disease crisis. Therefore, the commission shall A, study the scope of childhood chronic disease of the chronic. So, you have not established to my satisfaction, or really, I think to anybody's satisfaction, that there is a childhood chronic disease crisis. The first thing you're going to do is study the scope of a thing that you've already decided existed. And any potential contributing causes, including the American diet. I toast you my Dr. Pepper. Like, you're not wrong. Absorption of toxic material. Things like, I don't know, lead, that we're pretty sure are toxic. And there may be other stuff too. It is possible, very reasonably possible, that microplastics are scary crap. And that forever chemicals are scary crap. I buy it. Do those studies. Go for it. Medical treatments, lifestyle, environmental factors, government policies, food production techniques, EM radiation. You guys. Yeah, but it's the CDDC. It's the CCDC. It's the childhood chronic disease. EM radiation. Guys. They're literally the tin hat crowd. They're literally working on, hey, is your cell phone giving you cancer? This is legitimately, and again, okay. It's like, do the study, bro. I don't know how you're going to double blind it, but figure it out. All right. Tell me, please prove to me, please prove to the class that EM radiation is in fact having a causal link with any of the things that are going on right now. Yeah, not fans of the demic. Nice chatting with you, Zatinzo. Pandemics, epidemics. Really, the demos. They're not fans of the demos. Not big on the people. Or they're big on some of the people. Governmental policies, food production techniques, EM radiation, and corporate influence or cronyism. Gee, I wonder if there's any corporate influence or cronyism. It is possible that I'm going to have to take a break.
Eventually, love.
Eventually, I am halfway through this text. Hold on one moment, please, dear listeners. I appreciate your patience. Okay, dear team, I need to go make my child healthy again. I need to take a quick break and do some child care. I will be back in under 5 minutes. Please chat amongst yourselves. I will be right back. And we're back. My son had what might be called a 1-star review of my content so far. Yeah, thanks for coming by, Zatinzo. I appreciate it. Yeah, they can't have healthy. They can't have it. All right. Corporate influencer cronyism. Is anyone else concerned about, like, bro, the literal richest man in the world works for you. The literal richest man in the world is going through the federal government with a buzzsaw. And you're talking out of the side of your face about corporate influencer cronyism. I want to say things unbefitting of a preacher. Advise and assist the president on informing the American people regarding the childhood chronic disease crisis using transparent and clear facts. Great. With citations. Citations. Not citations, no hails. I want citations. Provide to the president government-wide recommendations on policy and strategy related to addressing the identified contributing causes of and ending the childhood chronic disease crisis. Section 5, initial assessment and strategy from the commission. Make our children healthy again assessment within 100 days. My friends, right now. Can I do this? Fun fact, if you didn't know this, if you go to, darn. If you go to mostgoogleproducts.new, it will create a new one of that thing. And I don't want to show y'all my calendar. So I'm going to take a note to remind myself to create a calendar invite for, February 14th, 13 plus 100 days. And I have to specify 2025 so that we know that it's not a leap year. It is May 24th, my friends. Put it on your calendar, May 24th. By May 24th, we should have the assessment. Within 100 days of the date of this order, the commission shall submit to the president through the chair and the executive director the assessment, which shall identify and describe childhood chronic disease in America compared to other countries. Great. Assess the threat that potential overutilization of medications. Okay, and this is my wife said, can you make it not go another hour? Okay, love. This is the other paragraph. Like, I could technically sort of wrap it up right after this, but... Oh, it's not this one. It's another one later. But let's. Assess the threat that potential overutilization of medication, certain food ingredients, certain chemicals, and certain other exposures pose to children with respect to chronic inflammation or other established mechanisms of disease, using rigorous and transparent data, including international comparisons. Great. I want to know what certain food ingredients and certain chemicals you mean. I want you to tell me what you mean. Certain chemicals, certain food ingredients. What do you mean? Because I think that you're talking about fluoride. And I think that you're talking about food dyes. And that you'd like to do a side-by-side. Remember that the Biden administration, and it was the Biden administration, just got rid of a horrible, horrible thing that had been banned in all other industrialized countries for making orange soda. We just got rid of it. Like, last year. But sure, okay. Seriously, I do the double-blind study. Tell me what food ingredients and chemicals seem to be contributing to chronic disease. Sure. I don't think we're going to like it. Because I bet you that one of them is high fructose corn syrup. Assess the prevalence of and threat posed by the prescription. Okay, this is the one. Assess the prevalence of and threat posed by the prescription of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, stimulants, and weight loss drugs. I have been on 2 of these in my life. I am still on 1. SSRIs saved my bacon. Saved my bacon. At a time in my life when I was not at all functional. an SSRI got me moving well enough to be proceeding, well enough to get going. I know many people on antipsychotics and mood stabilizers. One of them is a family member who I love dearly, who, with lithium, is successfully putting their life together and doing really well, even facing other mental health challenges. And without lithium, almost destroyed themselves. I know 2 older people in my life who are taking weight loss drugs and are seeing phenomenal outcomes. And I've said this several times in several places, and I'm going to say it again and again and again. Secretary Kennedy, Mr. President, you can have my Adderall, you can have my Vyvanse when you pry them from my cold, dead hands. They're not optional. Not in the life that I currently have. Now, if somehow magically y'all succeed taking us back to some sort of agrarian society where we all walk to our jobs both ways, and at our jobs we, spend it, like, if we all can take up golfing as our jobs with reasonable wages, great. Wonderful. I can probably quit my ADHD meds, but that's not the world I live in, and it's not the world that y'all seem to want me to live in. Stimulant medications are, going on Adderall is the single best decision I have ever made in my life. It was transformative. Day one, my life went from sputtering to coasting. Like that. Thanks to Adderall. Threat posed by the prescription of SSRIs, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, stimulants, and weight loss drugs. No, Mr. President. No, Secretary Kennedy. I acknowledge the possibility that there are some places where these medications are inappropriate. It's possible. But that's a question for physicians and patients. It's a question for physicians and patients. And y'all, Republicans, who have been screaming for years that government needs to get out of spaces where it doesn't belong. The government does not belong between me, my doctor, and my medication. No. I'm back to the text. I'm going to continue being mad about that one, but subparagraph 4. Identify and report on best practices for preventing childhood health issues, including through proper nutrition and the promotion of healthy lifestyles. Better folk than you have tried. Evaluate the effectiveness of existing educational programs with regard to nutrition, physical activity, and mental health for children. Again, keep tilting at that windmill, kids. Identify and evaluate existing federal programs and funding intended to prevent and treat childhood health issues for their scope and effectiveness. This is SNAP and WIC. This is them saying that they want to go after SNAP and WIC. Okay. Y'all suck. But this is them going after SNAP and WIC and TANF. And probably after CHIP. And that sucks. 7. Ensure transparency of all current data and unpublished analyses and ensure transparency of all current data and unpublished analyses. What? Related to the childhood chronic disease crisis, consistent with applicable law. Evaluate the effectiveness of current federal government childhood health data and metrics, including those from the Federal Interagency Forum on Child and Family Statistics. The first, it's not even a link. Guys, it's not even a link. You just underlined it for no reason. Including those from the Federal Interagency Forum on Child and Family Statistics and the National Survey of Children's Health. Great. Okay. Evaluate the effectiveness of childhood health data and metrics. Okay. All right. Restore the integrity of science. Science has been disintegrating, including by eliminating undue industry influence. Again, ConAgra and PepsiCo are my sort of default here. Is there somebody that I'm missing? Releasing findings and underlying data to the maximum extent permitted under applicable law, and increasing methodological rigor. Cool. All right. That doesn't sound bad. I want to know what you mean, but all right. Establish a framework for transparency and ethics review in industry-funded projects. I am not, again, a medical professional or a scientist. Do we not have a framework for transparency and ethics review in industry-funded projects? Don't we have a whole peer review process? Isn't there a peer review process? Don't we have that process? Paragraph B. Make Our Children Healthy Again strategy within 180 days of the date of this order. Okay, so my bros here, the commission has 80, that is 80 days from the arrival of the assessment that they're going to do in 100 days to submit to the president through the chair and the executive director a Make Our Children Healthy Again strategy based on the findings from the Make Our Children Healthy Again assessment. No, bro. Okay, no, all right. For a moment, I thought they had bracketed assessment earlier and then spelled it out again, but no. All right. Based on the findings from the Make Our Children Healthy Again assessment described in subsection A of this section, the strategy shall address appropriately restructuring the federal government's response to the childhood chronic disease crisis, including by ending federal practices that exacerbate the health crisis or unsuccessfully attempt to address it, and by adding powerful new solutions that will end childhood chronic disease. A laudable, lofty goal that I don't trust y'all to execute on. Are you guys going to go after, CP? How are you going to end childhood chronic disease? If you can, okay. But I don't believe you. And I definitely don't trust you. The chair may hold public hearings, meetings, roundtables, and similar events as appropriate and may receive expert input from leaders in public health and government accountability. The chair may do those things. Also doesn't have to. Section 6. Additional reports. Following the submission to the president of the strategy and any final strategy reports thereafter, the chair and the executive director shall recommend to the president updates to the commission's mission, including desired reports. The commission shall not reconvene following submission of the strategy until an updated mission is submitted to the president through the executive director. Okay, sure, fine. And now we're into the legal boilerplate, which I have points of interest. I have not done this close reading thing on any of the other EOs. I'm probably not going to unless they are I'm going to tread carefully because I am not a mental health professional. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a lawyer. There's a lot that I don't know about these things. I'm doing this reading because this is my area. This is an area of my expertise. So here I feel good, but I'm curious if the other EOs have some of this. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof. Okay. So this does not prevent the EPA or HHS or the NIH from doing anything. Construed to impair or otherwise affect. The NIH and the EPA and all the others get to do exactly what they're doing, and their authority is not injured by it. The functions of the director of the OMB relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. Fine. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. Okay. You need some money to do it. Yeah. If anybody watching this later on YouTube or anybody, if anybody can tell me what this means, this order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States. This EO does not let you sue the government is the closest that I have. Sure. The White House, February 13th, 2025. People who know more than I do about disability advocacy. People that I know and trust. People who know more than I do about disability advocacy are throwing around words like eugenics. I went to Dachau when I was in Germany. And they have this poster at Dachau of, here's how we identify our prisoners. They're the upside down triangles that they wear. And you see this poster. And it's sort of known, I knew before I went to Dachau, that obviously Jews were on the poster. So were gypsies, Roma. So were I think it was Jehovah's Witnesses. There was a couple wacky, like, religious ones. And so were people with disabilities and the homeless. DGen Cat points out that this is yet another war. We now have a war on childhood chronic disease. A war against the childhood chronic disease crisis. I don't trust this administration not to make it a war on sick people. Because it is so easy to blame people for being sick. It's much easier than helping them. So, I see this EO, and there's stuff in there that I'm like, more power to you, get it done. But I see a lot in here that is terrifying. That is a direct assault on my way of life and on my well-being and on the way of life and well-being of people that I love. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to go on Twitch. And I'm going to read the thing out loud. And I'm going to talk about all the ways that it is unsatisfying. And all the ways that it's unsighted. And all of the ways that it is untrue. And that it's not backed up by data. And I'm going to keep doing that. So stay tuned. No later than March 24th. I will... If the open source data is transparently published of the report that's given by the Make America Healthy Again Commission to the president through the chair and the executive director, I will probably read that too. Thank you all for joining us today. Thanks for sticking with me through the process. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that you have a chance to think carefully about your health and about the health of the people around you, and about how the government can or should or can't or shouldn't be involved in the health of the people you love. Thanks for joining us. I do Bible study sermon preparation every week at about 1 p.m., give or take the baby's nap time. This went great, and so it's entirely possible I'm going to do it again. I also occasionally stream Dyson Sphere program because I need something to feel good about that is easy. And the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@ADHD_preacher. You can see the Advent calendar. I am hopeful that I'm going to put some content together for Mardi Gras, not for Mardi Gras, but for Ash Wednesday and for Lent. I'm hoping to do a video series for Lent. But also check out Blue Sky. You can find me on there, ADHD Preacher. And that's all of the stuff that's fit to print right now. Thank you all for joining me. Appreciate you. Good vibes. God bless. See you next time.